coat of arms. That's a unique symbol or sign that would signify a group of people or a particular country or an emblem of particular area, so that it will be distinguished from all others. When the warriors belonging to the two opposing sides would meet on the battlefield, they would wear some sort of shield, or they would place their unique emblem somewhere else so that they can distinguish their own people from the enemy. That is the very definition of a coat of arms. It is this type of unique emblem or a symbol that would be different from those who do not belong to your group or country or clan or whatever it signifies. So keeping this definition in mind, doesn't it seem strange that too many countries in the past, and not only countries, also cities, areas, and all kinds of things that would have their own emblem, would have the very same one, the double-headed eagle? Didn't all these countries have a single artist that could come up with an unique idea? Or maybe there were too many double-headed chicks wandering on the streets of these countries, to the extent that they were the main thing in the country? Mainstream historians assure us that it was always the case of copying. I mean, they see somebody else has the emblem and they adopt it for themselves. But this contradicts simple logic. I mean, the full point of having an emblem that identifies you as something unique, for example, a unique country, doesn't serve its purpose anymore because you have the same symbol as your neighbor. Or was it actually that people really belonged to one single group, one single empire, and they showed it on their coat of arms? This not only seems much more logical, but also elegantly fits with all the other artifacts that I have been showing for so many episodes, exposing the truth that the full history was quite different from what we are led to believe it was. Even cultures that are labeled as pre-Columbian were using this emblem, although they developed supposedly in complete isolation from Europe and Asia, where the double-headed eagles are really all over as emblems and coats of arms. The symbol of the double-headed eagle is present in almost all of the cultures that we usually call most ancient. that we call Middle Ages, the symbol of the double-headed eagle is adopted in one form or another in all European countries practically. It is all over the state coats of arms, the coats of arms of towns and cities, and everything else you can imagine. The examples are countless, but some examples are not convenient for mainstream historians, like this one, denoting all the areas that have this symbol as belonging to one central, single governmental structure. We are always taught that these areas and towns and countries just came up with the same symbol independently of each other. Currently, the double-headed eagle is still present in the coats of arms in only 4 countries, and they all happen to be Slavic. Those are Albania, Serbia, Russia, and Chernogora. They all happen to be Slavic because the Slavic countries left this union of the areas that were honoring the survival culture relatively at a later stage of its decay. The symbol is also widely used by the church, of course. Again, the examples here are countless. It is the symbol of almost all the major empires that are more or less symbolic. They were created as some sort of labels to organize the historical fiction that mainstream science is presenting to us. But anyway, as they created these empires, it seems again and again people had no imagination, so all of them, the Byzantine and also Roman emperors, are seen depicted with the double-headed eagle on their chest and their paraphernalia. And of course the continuation, the Holy Roman Empire, the Russian Empire, all those that claim to have continued the Roman tradition, they have the very same emblem and coats of arms, the double-headed eagle. That doesn't make much sense from the point of view of the commonly believed history that different countries would adopt the same symbol to distinguish between each other, which is quite confusing, but it makes perfect sense from the point of view of the new chronology, according to which they had the same symbol because they simply belonged to the same empire. This is an image from the old Degerton manuscript. It depicts the legendary King Arthur fighting another knight. A double-headed eagle is depicted on the shield. King Arthur is very famous in England, and that is why some native English people, not only one, a few of them decided to really trace the roots of this legend and made a meticulous research about the true identity of King Arthur. And their findings were quite in line with the new chronology. Few of them reached to the conclusion that, amazingly enough, he was some sort of a blonde barbarian that it seems that must have come from somewhere the shores of the Danube River. Well, I think we know who are these blonde so-called barbarians with magical abilities. Double-headed eagle is revered in the context of the Vedic culture as well, known under the name of Gandaberuda or simply Beruda, and is considered over there to be an incarnation of Lord Vishnu. And probably that is the only clue that we have about the original meaning of this most ancient symbol, which is so old that we practically cannot trace its original meaning. The double-headed eagle is also widely used in the secret organization of the Masons. And that is why some people mistakenly classify it as Masonic symbol altogether. But that is erroneous because the symbol was subsequently adopted and used. It was borrowed from the already existing symbols. which is the case with many other symbols collected from all religions that they use as well. It doesn't mean that they were the original creators of these symbols, and it doesn't mean that the symbols originally bared the meaning that the Masons ascribed to them. After the new fabricated history was imposed upon the society with force by the means of the very bloody war nowadays masked as a Reformation period, so after the reformators felt victorious, they did not feel comfortable anymore with the imperial symbol of the double-headed eagle, which was still on the arms of courts of various towns and countries. So they solved that problem by simply chopping off its eastern side, and as a result it took the form of a single eagle, or as in the case of this one that you see of the town of Pilsen, literally only half of it remained. They didn't even bother to change the image to make it look like a proper eagle, but always when they were chopping in such a manner, they always chopped the head that was looking towards the east, towards the place of the Empire of the Survivors. But chopping off half of the eagle is just symbolic. The most important task was to chop off our true knowledge, and they embarked on this task using various subtle methods. For example, take a look at the continents on our planet. The parasites who consider themselves treated preferentially by God and destiny didn't want to live even on the same continent as the survivors. That was beyond their dignity. That's why they artificially divided the continent of Asia, which was named after the Aces, which originally was a name of the survivors, and made part of it their own, calling it Europe. Not only was Europe a place where they would feel home and a place from where they would spread their influence all around the world, but also they made Europe to look like the giver of civilization and innovation by forging the real history in a fashion that it would look at the end that all the technical innovations that were given to us by the survivor culture were supposedly invented, well, mostly and preferably in Europe. Wikipedia informs us that the very idea and definition of continent is a cultural thing. Then why do we study it in geography classes? It is just another subtle way to assert the imaginary supremacy of the European political forces on the world scene, as, for example, contrasting with the uncivilized, dirty Asia. And all that is just so that the people will continue believing in all this farce and will continue dancing according to the music that is played by Europe. Of course, again, when I say Europe, I don't mean the general population of the people of Europe, but just the political forces that have seized power at the current moment. Although the Ural Mountains in Russia are definitely very rich in history, they are not at all high or special in any way from geographical point of view to deserve the honor to divide continents. They cannot in any way stand to the mighty Himalayas, for example, or many other mountain ranges around the world from a geographical point of view. Also, the river Uzinkaya, its very name means small and narrow, has also been placed as a border between continents. It's a kind of a small brook or a regional river that cannot be compared to other bodies of water, even in the very same region, what to speak on a world scale. Also, I can assure you that the land on its both shores, on both sides, looks absolutely the same. There is no difference. By listening to the mainstream so-called innocent news that simply seem to represent facts without much judgment, we are actually constantly exposed to a systematic manipulation of our belief system that would result in the current deplorable state of affairs around the world of wars and pollution. Just one example. In the vicinity of Stonehenge, using the technology of the ground penetrating sensor devices, a new, much bigger stone circle has been discovered. That is barely a surprise because bigger circles of the same design as shown on this simulation are already there in the area of Stonehenge. I saw one during my visit there years ago. Indeed, I enjoyed my visit to that second circle much more because it definitely looked authentic, and it was the access was free. Anybody could go and touch and enjoy the stones, and most importantly, again, it felt really authentic. While the Stonehenge, if it is at all an ancient monument, which many people already question seriously with very good grounds, if it is ancient indeed, there is very little left of its original outlook due to its rearrangement, which is well documented with photos and footage, and is not even kept secret by the British government. Some of that footage you can see in my video Planet of the Megaliths. But let's get back to the story. So a bigger circle was found, and that's fine. But pay attention to the article that was published in this regard. Its very first sentence: Stonehenge occupies one of the richest archaeological landscapes in the world. My God, that's a pretty loaded statement, where there could be miracles that we don't know anything about somewhere under there, but we haven't discovered any of those miracles. And I beg your pardon, but the breathtaking technological achievements and megaliths in Peru, Egypt, and Turkey are so far more superior than Stonehenge that we cannot even compare them if we are really evaluating the richness of the archaeological landscape, as they have put it nicely in words. But they are not using their advanced ground penetrating technology to study anywhere in the plateau of Giza or in Turkey or in Peru, and the excuse for that is the blatant lie that the area of Stonehenge is one of the richest in the world. What to speak of conducting actual research in the really rich areas? No way, they are too busy making new fences with armed guards and making new regulations and ingenious ways to stop even public researchers who want to do it at their own cost. And one last short example of things that are being artificially separated. Prussia. Naturally, as almost all European countries, it has the eagle as its coat of arms. Here it is already single-headed. God knows if that's the original form, or this is the chopped later version of it. And if we have a look at the very name of the country, it looks like Russia or Russia with P in front of it. And of course, the penguins, the scholars assure us that this has nothing to do with the original Slavic root ras, which as the Dubrovnik monk Mauro Urbini told us was the word from which many nations derived their names. Rasenami meant in their own language the scattered ones, and many of them, like for example the Etruscans, derived their names from exactly that same root. But the penguins assure us that this has nothing to do with this root, and that the people decided to call their country and themselves just by chance. It sounds and looks exactly like all others, and actually it means something from their natural surroundings. I really believe that, do you? And this transition, this division, the falling apart of the great empire was gradual. Even at the time of the First World War, both sides that were fighting indeed had the same emblem, the same symbol, the same coat of arms on their uniforms. Here are the emblems of the both opposing parties. So God knows how much the information that we have about even the First World War is relevant and correct. After all, many people nowadays are not properly informed about the actual situation and reasons for the wars that are going on right now. And just a short clarification for those who have not watched the previous episodes yet. This empire that I'm mentioning, that included all the countries in Europe practically in the past, and large parts of Asia, if not again everything, does not correspond to any current state or country that exists. It has been wiped out completely, and it has been substituted with various smaller countries. Thank you for watching. The Survivor series have at least some 10 more episodes to come. I may not be able to make them very soon, but definitely at latest in November and December I will have more time to complete them.